Hello my likable friend, I hope you're doing well. It's Yoshi here. In today's class, we are going to implement the Nano Project for creating the My Preference app. Alright, let's go to the project description. The first requirement is that the file should display on the browser the text, what you prefer, below it two buttons, first option and second option. So, when you open it in a browser, it should look like this. The second requirement is that when you click the buttons, the bottom text should switch to fruits when you click the first button and cookies when you click the second button. So, when you open it in a browser, it should look like this. The third and last requirement is that the JavaScript code should contain only one function. Now, let's get hands-on. Alright, let's follow the sequence and create our page 04. New file, page 04.html, exclamation mark, and then project 04. Now, page content, let me close the Explorer and open the preview window to see my changes right away. Alright, we did it. Nice. Item 1 done. As per the second requirement, the buttons should change the text on the screen. So let's start coding our JavaScript code. Script tag, and then first function. Let me just copy the function and then create another, which is going to be very similar. Now we have two functions. Let's set up the buttons to call, to invoke those functions when we click them. Remember, the attribute is onclick. Prefer fruits. And here, prefer cookies. Let me just change the size here, and it is supposed to work. Let us test. So, first option, I should see fruits below it. Let us test. Ooh, daddy. Second option, I'm supposed to see cookies instead. Let us test. Ooh, daddy. So, fruits, cookies. Fruits, cookies, fruits, cookies. We did it. Item 2, done. Finally, as per the third requirement, our JavaScript code should contain only one function. As you can see, our first code is working, but it has two functions. So let's refactor our code in order to have the same behavior but with one single function. Let me start removing the second function and rename it to prefer. And here I'm going to do this. And here, instead of this, in the buttons, I'm going to make some changes as well. No way, Josh. Are you saying that this is the solution? Well, let us test. First option, fruits. Second option, cookies. Fruits, cookies, fruit, cookies. So, as you can see, again, we did it. So, the last item is done. Nice. Now, let's talk about the concepts and theories that helped us to implement the project. So, my friend, have you noticed how did I duplicate the line with the button tag? Let's check it out again. As you can see, I haven't used the copy and paste approach. I haven't selected the line in order to copy and then paste it. Instead, I asked to VS Code to duplicate the line. It can be done by using a keyboard hotkey or a keyboard shortcut, but that shortcut depends on your operating system. If your operating system is Windows, so the shortcut is Shift, Alt, up or down arrow key. If your operating system is Linux, the shortcut is Control, Shift, Alt, up or down arrow key. But if your operating system is Mac OS, the shortcut is Shift, Option, up or down arrow key. Again, there is no need to select the line. You can stay at any part of the line that you want to duplicate. So just hit the keyboard shortcut like this and ta-da, the line is duplicated. Simple like that.
Excellent.
And have you noticed how did I create a div tag with an ID attribute? Let's take a look again. As you can see, I did not open a div tag and then added the ID attribute in its opening tag. Instead, I typed div hash and the ID value I wanted, and then return key, like this. Ooh, mommy, very nice that hack, don't you agree?
Excellent.
Let me quickly recap how did I implement the first version of our code. The first version had two functions, prefer fruits and prefer cookies. So yes, you can have how many functions you need in your JavaScript code inside your script tag. Our first button, the button with the text first option, when you click it, it invokes the prefer fruits function. The second button invokes or calls the prefer cookies function. And both do pretty much the same thing. Both go to div preference. Who is div preference? Is it a keyword or a JavaScript statement? No, it isn't. So is it there an element identified as div preference? Yes, it is. Here it is, right? So what are we doing? We are getting its content and changing and switching to fruits. That's why when you click the first button, this function is called. We take this div here and change its content. See the content innerHTML equals, so we are changing the content to the text fruits. So in runtime, JavaScript retrieves this div and changes the content like this. Oh, do you want me change this div content? No problem. So JavaScript kind of copy this and paste here. That's why, again, it was empty, right? So when you click here, JavaScript calls this and replace the content. Let me take this and paste here. See? That's why it happens when you click the button. The same thing for the second button. When you click it, it calls prefer cookies and it changes div preference content as well. See? Change the content, but by the text cookies. So that's why when you click here, JavaScript just kind of copy this and paste here. See? That's why you see it changing here. Now, get ready. I'm going to show you something that I believe it is going to blow your mind. Do you remember in our Nano Project 0, we installed two extensions in our VS Code, Live Preview and Live Server. The Live Preview extension is who let us click the Show Preview button and see a live preview window beside our code. Now, let me teach you how the likable Live Server extension works and how it's going to help you a lot in our classes. In order to use the Live Server extension, just right-click your file like this and go to the option Open with Live Server. When you click it, your default browser is supposed to open with your page like this. Let me zoom in here, see? And just like the Live Preview extension, whenever you change anything here, like now capital O in both buttons, you see the change right away. Again, another change, for example, one more BR tag here, see? Right away you see the new line break in the browser. But why should I use Live Server rather than Live Preview? What are the advantages? That's a very good question, my friend. Live Preview is very helpful to check if you have any typo or if your visual elements are in the correct position, right? But with Live Server, you can see how your page, how your app will look in a real browser. Another advantage is that you're able to test many pages at the same time, like this. For example, we have many pages in the same folder, right? To get the other pages tested, you can do like this. Let's go to the browser. You can just kind of copy this address here, open a new tab, and then paste it. And then, oh, I want to take a look at page 03. Page 03 here. Take that. See? The same thing. Let me test page 02. Ooh, mommy. See? The page 02 doesn't work. The button doesn't work, right? But on page 03, it works. Remember? And as we used the project name in the title tag, we can see easily which page or which app is in each tab. By the way, let's improve our title like this. Maybe NP, which stands for Nano Project. And then right away, the title is updated in the browser. But why should I care about title? First of all, it helps you when you have multiple tabs. And remember, I told you in other classes, we are going to test our pages, our apps in mobile devices. And the title is very helpful when you test this kind of app in a mobile device. As a software development student, the most important feature when you test your HTML and JavaScript code in a browser is the DevTools, which you can open, which you can access by right-click your page and then inspect. You are supposed to see a window on the right like this, so you can adjust the size and then zoom in. Let me adjust here. All right, I think it's enough. So here you can expand the tags and see pretty much what you did in VS Code, right? Just ignore this part here, code injected by live server. The first script tag is the code injected by live server, so just ignore it. The second script tag is your script tag, is the script tag we coded. Let's focus on the div tag, on the div preference tag, right? Let's see what happens when we click one of the buttons. Let me click first option. Please pay attention to the div tag. Let's see what happens. Let me click. Have you noticed that we saw something here? Now we can expand this tag. See? Let me do that. That's interesting. Let me click the second button now. Take that. See? You can see the div content changing right away. Again, first option, take a look at div tag, clicking. No way. In my opinion, it's very useful for software development students like you, my friend. Don't you agree? If you wanna close the DevTools, just click here at the right top, close, and then another way to open and close the DevTools is by pressing F12 key. If it is closed, F12, open it. If it is open, F12, it closes. Now I'm going to introduce you another very nice feature on DevTools. Now my code has only one JavaScript function again, but I don't know if you notice there are some errors, there are some mistakes in our code, but it was on purpose because now if I click the second button, doesn't work. First button doesn't work. Nothing works, right? Now check this out. Let me open the DevTools and go to the console tab. See, there's a console tab here. Aha! See, I have some error messages here, right? But as there are a lot of error messages, let me clean the console by clicking here on clear console. Now it is clear. So let me click the first option again. See, it says prefers is not defined. That's interesting. And it says that the error is on page02.html line 12. Let's click here and see what happens. Ooh, there is, see, the line with the mistake. Can you see the mistake? Prefers. Our function name is not prefers, it is prefer. Let us fix it by removing the extra S. If you go to the browser again and go to the console, it is supposed to be clear because we change the page, so the live server reloads the page whenever we change it, right? Let us test it again. First option. Come on, Yosh, what kind of teacher are you? Another mistake, my friend. No worries, it was on purpose. It was part of the plan. Now the error message is different. Now it says div preference is not defined. That's interesting. And it says that the problem is at line 62. Let us click here. That's fine. But wait, there's something weird, my friend, because there's no such line 62 in page 04.html, right? If you go back to Elements tab, remember that I said to ignore this code here and the first script tag. So this line and this script tag have been injected by live server, but from the browser perspective, those lines are part of the file. That's why when our mistake is on our JavaScript code, the console is more likely to show us a wrong line number. But it's not a problem at all because the line number is wrong, but the content is correct. Just check for the first line on prefer function code block, right? The first line of prefer function code block. So let's go to our function, prefer function, first line. What's the problem here? Div preference. Preference should start with capital P because it is camel case. Now let's check if it's working now. Page 04. Let's go to the console. First option, working. Second option, working, and no more error messages in our likable console. Very nice this feature, don't you agree, my friend?
Excellent.
Let me finally teach you how our code worked with one single function. So, if you remember, our first version was like this. We had two functions, right? But both functions did pretty much the same thing. The only difference was the text used to fill out the div preference content, right? So instead of two functions, it can be done by one function. Now our function has a parameter, the preference parameter. That's why a pair of parentheses is required when we create a function, because between them we write out our likable parameters. Again, in our case, we have one parameter, the preference parameter. And as our function has a parameter, whenever we call it, whenever we invoke it, we have to send inside the pair of parentheses an argument. In the first button, we call it prefer and the text fruits as the argument. In the second button, we call it prefer function and the text cookies as the argument. So, after all, it worked like this. When you click the first button, it calls prefer and then send fruits as the argument. So, when the function runs, imagine that the preference is no longer preference, it is fruits. So, here is no longer preference as well, it is fruits. And as we saw before, when you do that, the content of div preference is going to be replaced by the text fruits. When you click the second button, it calls prefer and send as argument the text cookies. So when the function runs, instead of preference, it is cookies and also cookies here. That's why the content of div preference is replaced by cookies. So what do you think, my friend? Easy? I love using parameters and arguments because we kind of get a lot of features with one single function or just with a few functions. Like this, we could have a third button like this. And inside, hamburger. Let's test it. Now we have a third option. The first one, fruits. The second, cookies. And the third, hamburger. We can also have something like this. Prefer with an empty text and then surprise me. So my friend, what do you think is going to happen when you click this button here, surprise me? Do you have any idea? So let us see what happens. Third option, hamburger. First option, fruits. Now surprise me. Ta-da! What? Again, hamburger, surprise me, nothing. Cookies surprise me nothing. Fruits surprise me nothing. Why did it happen? Because when you click this button, it calls prefer, sending an empty text as argument. So when the function runs, preference instead is going to be an empty text. And then the div preference content is going to be replaced by an empty text. That's why it looks like we removed the text. It was just a trick. An empty text is kind of invisible. Do you like it, my friend? I hope so. And to make it clear, absolutely clear, we have 4 buttons, 4 behaviors. From user perspective, it looks like we have 4 behaviors, 4 different actions. But actually, we have only one function in our likable JavaScript code. It was possible because we used parameter and arguments. By the way, did you get the difference between parameter and argument? In the function code, in the function source code, between the pair of parentheses, we may have one or more parameters. And inside the function code block, we can use them whenever and however we want. When we invoke a function between the pair of parentheses, we may send one or more arguments. If the function has no parameter, we don't send any argument. If the function has one parameter, we send one argument. If the function has 2 parameters, we may send 2 arguments, and so on. What are the frequently asked questions and common mistakes for that project? Yoshi, can I send an argument between double quotes? Sure you can, my friend. But make sure that in that case, the onclick attribute is going to start with single quote and with single quote. After that, you can send your arguments between double quotes. Let us test. See, still working. Yoshi, but you told that a function may have more than one parameter. How would be a code of a function with 2 or more parameters? Rest assured, I will show you, my friend, but in the upcoming classes, okay? I saw your DevTools in a dark mode, in a dark theme, but in my browser, I see the light theme, the light mode. How can I switch to the dark mode? Understood, my friend. So you mean this. You open your likable DevTools and you see it in a light theme, in a light mode like this, right? Pretty easy to switch to the dark theme. Just click here, settings, and then here, theme, switch to dark, and then close here. That's it. Even if you close and open your browser, the DevTools will remain at this theme. Feel free to write out a comment with questions, suggestions, or what else you want. Many thanks for watching. I hope you learned a lot. If you wanna thank me, just hit the like button and subscribe the channel if you haven't already. I do believe you can code.